Hello everybody. We are here to show you what we've been working on at Columbia in terms of the role of the librarian, especially the reference librarian in the pre-publishing phase of legal scholarship. My colleague Aslan Blue and myself are going to do this presentation together. So Aslan is going to start. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. So thank you for coming. And the reason that we're interested in this topic is because, as many of you might be in a similar situation in your libraries, we have a good percent of our reference traffic in the reference desk is due to journal law review students. And we have we have exactly 14 law reviews at Columbia, and as you can imagine, the citation checking process is quite involved. And many times we end up duplicating each other's efforts and retrieving materials that were asked earlier or by another journal. So we wanted to ease the process for the students and ideally provide a more effective service to support their work. So our basic idea is to create a repository for these journals so that they can store the materials that the library has already retrieved for them. So we can preserve those materials that they're relying on for immediate and future use. So there are, as you can imagine, many direct benefits of this, and to preserve the materials ideally in a free searchable repository. And the journal students can then search the repositories themselves so that they have access to something that has already been retrieved, for example, through interlibrary loan, and even reducing or eliminating the duplicate ILLs that we have been receiving all along for electronic copies of the same source, for example, and sometimes for the same journal, or the same article, or sometimes for another journal. We often get duplicate requests to locate materials that have already been asked for by someone else. And this, in turn, obviously will not only save both staff and patrons time, but reduce costs even just on the ILL end of it, and obviously be much more efficient.
Yes. If you can visualize this, visualize a digital shelf collection. This is what we have in mind. So our students would come to the reference desk, and they would ask for a retrieval of a document that's referenced in footnote 1 or footnote 2, whatever. And if we have the book in our library, we'll let them put it out on the shelf collection. If not, we will go into library loan, as Aslan said, and they will make a photocopy, put it in an envelope, and put it on the shelf collection. These are skills that no one is interested in. No one is going to pay our students for such skills, for shelving books. We can't pay librarians to do that anymore. So what we have in mind is, why don't we teach them to do something related to information management? So they come to us, we obtain documents for them, we can scan something for them and give it to them, and they are taking it from there. Thank you all.
So our goal is very much in line with ethical principles of AALL as well, which is to promote open and effective access to legal and related information. And in the digital era that we live in, as Paul puts in his article, his recent article, is that our aim should be to ensure that we take advantage of the potential of the digital era that we live in, right? And to improve access to legal information for all of our patrons, including the public. So as librarians, our profession is already dedicated to these classic goals, right, of ensuring creation of materials that contain or describe legal information, providing access to these materials for our patrons is another classic function, and we do this through various public services, whether it be reference department or circulation departments, right? And now we want to extend that preservation of materials to include sources that make up the research itself. All those electronically available materials in those footnotes in the law reviews, whether footnotes, endnotes, bibliographies, works cited pages, right, to support the scholarship that our institution is producing. And we want to do that prior to the source being published, so that they can refer to it easily during that publishing phase. This is not a brand new idea by any means. Placement of sources into public online spaces such as repositories have already been done by many institutions. It does serve several key functions. Collecting scholarship, providing access to the work, providing metadata about the work, and preserving the work at least for some period of time. And there are a variety of applications that do exist to create these repositories for legal scholarship, and both proprietary and open source. And this itself has evolved in recent years by both institutions taking the lead or private publishers. And these tools enable, obviously, not only law faculties, but other faculties in other sciences to collect, preserve, index, and distribute these digital works. And some libraries already have their own repositories. Duke is a leader in this area. They have an excellent repository that they have created, and it includes retrospective collections of journal articles, papers by current faculty members, and it can evolve to support student work also. So our idea is to reach out to the students because faculty already have some commercial sources at their disposal that they are very fond of, like the SSRN, for example. So, next slide. 40% of the law schools in the U.S. use some form of a repository to distribute scholarship already. And the majority of the legal scholarship repositories that exist are based on proprietary applications. And there are also open software, open source software, and we're going to discuss that in a little bit. There are a few different types of repositories that are out there. First, there's the discipline-specific, which is known better probably by working paper repositories. These are hosted primarily by two commercial providers. SSRN has, as you know, an LSN, Legal Scholarship Network section, and vPress are the two primary ones. NELCO also has they are closely followed by NELCO's Legal Scholarship Repository. And so by comparison, institutional repositories are primarily based on open source applications. And there are a number of them listed on the next slide. And as I already mentioned, there are also law schools which have their own independent in-house law school repositories. Next slide. Thank you. So this is a selective list of open source software for digital repositories. There are more out there. I think these are the ones that are primarily in use. And the term open source software is used by some people to mean more or less the same category as free software. However, it's not exactly the same class of software because there might be license restrictions and it might not be free at a certain point. So the differences in this extension of the category are quite small actually, because nearly all free software is open source and majority of the open source software is free. I don't want to get into the definitions of that. The official definitions of both free software are available on Free Software Foundation's website and distinctions, and open source software is again, you can get more information from the open source initiative. However, basically just keep in mind that they refer to the same software licenses, but there might be a few minor exceptions. And again, please refer to their websites for much better understanding. And my colleague is going to actually talk about a few of these in greater depth in a little bit. So essentially our goal as reference librarians is to evolve our roles at the reference desk, and through the services we provide during the pre-publishing phase. And we try to break that down to 3 separate phases. So we already obviously assist in collecting the scholarship. We are experts in catalogs and indexes, and now what we want to do is to build a searchable, free of charge database to store and organize the resources referenced prior to publication. So, although my examples so far have referenced law reviews primarily, you can imagine that this type of repository can support the scholarship produced and used by all of our patrons in an academic setting. And as I mentioned, faculty scholarship is primarily been the place where repositories have been used so far. We want to extend the service to now law reviews, but you can imagine clinics already use some form of a repository internally, but if you were to extend that to include other clinics or have some kind of a network that's supported by the law school, that can also be shared. So this idea of the future future law library, and again I'm going to reference Paul Free's article because he coined this world of digital plus, and so the central idea is that new works are going to be continued to be created in some digital format, and we can't prevent that from happening. Print is somewhat decreasing, and students and faculty are accessing almost all legal information, at least as a starting point through some digital means. And however, the law library of 2010 or the future is not entirely digital yet, right? And it's a hybrid of print and digital. So there are many sources out there to guide the librarian or the information professional in creating some kind of a digital library. One such title is this How to Build a Digital Library. This particular book is actually written by, I think, 2 computer science faculty. But they have worked with librarians closely, and there are chapter sections devoted to librarians' concerns, and their input has been, integrated into this book very much. And another great source is my colleague, Donna, who's actually the mastermind behind this presentation, and knows a great deal more than I do, so I'm going to turn it over to her. She's been working on this project much longer than I have, and she's going to talk about a couple of projects, both at Columbia and other settings that she's been involved in.
Yes, I just want to mention something that I think is very much the point of our meeting even today at this conference. What exactly do we want to do, and who is going to be promoting this digitization process that we are witnessing, whether we want to be part of it or not? And how many of you are librarians? Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you. Because I do believe that it's up to us to say, yes, we want to be in charge of this digitization process. We are not going to let other other people involved with education technology or IT to take over us. And this is why I went back to this slide, to the three phases that Aslan talked about. And it may seem a little bit of a chutzpah to say, okay, as a librarian, what I know and what I do is research, and now suddenly I want to do something more. But I think that it's not something more. It just happens that the space where we have always been in charge, the library, has opened its walls. That space is on the internet. So it's still our space of expertise. It's still us in charge of organizing information, and this is all we want to do. We want to make that information that's out there accessible. Why did I say that what we want to present you is a digital shelf collection? Because maybe I'm going to date myself. I still think that librarians, by the name of our profession, would think in terms of shelves and books. But organizing information is nothing more than indexing information, offering access to that information, and right now, because of digitization, we can do something more. We can offer access to the entire content of the information that previously was just available through the catalog in that minimal recorded information, the title, the author, and so forth. So this phase 3 organized archive, it's nothing more than we have always done. It may be a bit fancier, but I don't believe so. It's what we are good at, researching, being experts in organizing information and offering access to it. So I'm going to talk to you about two softwares that I think they're just amazing. One of them is Omeka, and Omeka is produced by George Mason University, and unfortunately my institution couldn't give me money to attend their recent camp, but they do organize camps where you can go and learn how to be proficient in their own software. As Aslan said, if it's open source, it's not necessarily free. You'll see that there are some limitations. The Omeka net that I used is basically, the repository is with George Mason. I was allowed to open 3 free accounts. But if I wanted to open Omeka and use it at my institution, I would have had to go through them and ask for some licensing agreement. The fact that this is limited to whatever they gave me for free, you will see that I cannot create live links. So the type of shelf collection I can do is pretty much scan what you have and upload the documents. They are searchable, and you can organize them, and you can present them neatly to the editorial staff. Let me take a few steps back. So what we have in mind here is to help these students who are on the editorial board of all these journals at Columbia. They come with a draft of the article that was accepted for publication, and they divide the workload among themselves. They have to go through every single footnote and see whether their assertions made there are correct, whether the title of the source the author referenced is the correct title, or whether that author is the correct author, whether the pin site is from the specific source. This is what they want from us, to help them gather that information, and this is what I want to ease for them, this process. Omeka is going to help me ease that process because I can create collections. I can create collections of sources. I can say volume, I can create an account for the Columbia Law Review. Columbia Law Review, volume 110, author Greenberg, footnotes or whatever, draft 1, draft 2, and draft ready to be published. I can do that. And everything, as I said, everything mentioned in those footnotes minus URL, live URL to something that's on the web, I can do it on so, for example, you can have low library resources. If you want to help them even earlier in the process, the students would need to use, for example, Pacer or Factiva or specific databases that give you access. You can try to, what I said, not with the free limited software they gave me. If your institution wants to talk to the Omeka people, Omeka.net, they will give you the larger component where you can actually create access to all the databases that you know the students from the editorial boards are going to use to access those sources. And the beauty of this software is the advanced search. It's the advanced search because you can search based on what documents you put there. If you placed a chapter from a book and you mention the author of that chapter or the author of the book, you can search. You can search your collection, books, websites with subscription or free websites. You can search by all these type of information, the tags that you can add. You can make your searches public or private, and you can allow only the members of the editorial board to have password-protected access to this database. The way you would manage the site, it's very much like a blog, like WordPress. So it's pretty much intuitive. And also they tell you items, and you can add the items that you want. Collections. The collections would be the volumes, for example, volume 1 or volume 2 of the specific journal, or just first collection is collegial review, and then you'll have a sub-collection of the issues you're going to work on. You can create in the item type. The item types would enable you subsequently to perform the searches in as much depth as you want. So you can go by whatever you think you're going to search for, and here are some tags that you can work with. Now, this is an imaginary journal. For example, at the end, you can use the same platform to publish, to help your students publish their journals. So in addition to use it for your kitchen type of work, the pre-publication process, you can work some arrangement with your students so they can publish their journals, and it's quite neat. You can see that's a draft of something I'm working on, so they can use it for their own publication. Is this clear with Omeka? If you want to see more of that, what they're doing.
Could I just ask a question? So this repository you're creating here is only available password protected to the students, say on law review.
Yeah, that was a point of this is interest, because the students didn't want this to be open to the public. They are still working. They are very interested in protecting the privacy of their own work, and the article hasn't been ready for publication, like SNL not ready for prime time yet. So it's that type of work.
Don't I understand that you're also collecting the sources from the footnotes and putting them in here?
Exactly, and for copyright reasons, I think that's very good to be protected.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because if I interlibrary loan an article from somewhere else, I can't make that available to the public.
Exactly, you can't.
Okay.
But to the extent that you take care of that for an interlibrary loan, that copyright protection is still there.
Okay.
It's already, you obtain the copy instead of, and right now I think everybody uses Iliad or some form of digitized product where you don't receive the article faxed to you, it's sent to you as an attachment to an email, correct?
We still get a lot of moving paper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. We feel good, we just became.
Well, my next question then is,
Please.
instead of the paper source files that law reviews have for decades.
Exactly.
This becomes their source.
Exactly, and that was the beauty of it, and this is what I wanted to solve for them, because, for example, the students were very unresponsive. I try to, other projects I'm involved with, I try to get them interested in whatever I was working on, and every time I would get a student interested in my ideas, they would just graduate. They won't be there. And why would they invest some time with a librarian? This is something they do for credit or for something on their resume. So it is up to us to make it easier for them. And if you present them a very easy product, like everybody now blogs, it's so easy to blog, it's WordPress, but it's a repository, an archival WordPress, where you don't have to post comments. And I will show you the next product, which I think is much better than Omeka. So this is going to take care of itself. So basically, we tell our students, you're going to invest even less time that you invest right now, because instead of having 5 people who work on an article with hundreds of footnotes, it's inevitable that 5 people at a minimum would come and ask for the same source. They don't know what's going on. So that step is going to be removed, because from their home computer they can log in and check.
Have you done anything with working to either the law review or the library to kind of grid out for them footnotes? Like, let's say that there's a source that's mentioned in footnotes 1 and 37. And
like a spreadsheet. Yes, they do that spreadsheet. It's still a piece of paper they carry with them, and they have that spreadsheet with them, and they have the laptop, and they don't want to be in the library, and they're in a bad mood. And
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, does that cut down on some of the
Yes.
multiple requests?
Yes, when they are organized, there is a huge difference. We have 14, or now I think 15 journals. There is a huge difference between what you see as being done at the law review level and what we see being done at the tax journal level. So the students at the law review level, they have their own building, they have a secretary, so these people have their own juniors. The other people, they're happy to publish something.
So that spreadsheet, is that done by the student editors, or is that done by library staff?
No, we that's another issue, and I think part of our presentation should have been preceded by the words, it depends on the institution you work for. It depends how much support you have from your institution in being proactive as a librarian and taking care of your job, making yourself visible to our student body. Because as Aslan said, we do so much for our faculty members, but they are just one part of our patron body. When we serve legal scholarship, we serve legal education, we serve our student body. And without our students paying the tuition, I don't think anybody will have a job. But it depends on the institution. I think that's a possibility. But again, it seems to me a small step when we can go and fix the whole problem. If we just create this grid, we are going to create these grids every year and multiple times, when you can have it just once there, because you can attach it as a template and you can fill it in by whatever journal works on it. So I want to help, at the same time I don't want to overwhelm myself or my colleagues, because no one is going to support my ideas if it's just extra work, instead of just showing its efficiency. It's helping everybody, and at the end of the day, when they go out in the world, they can point out You know, I know what information management is. I know how to create a database that's searchable and that archives information.
And right now, it's the library that's working with this.
Well, no. At Columbia, no, because we don't have the institutional support. But there is, I received institutional support at Columbia. Our good fortune is that the Columbia Law School is not a self-standing institution. So I went outside to the main university with help from Brian. He is not here. He works outside the library, and together we went to the main office in the main library, and we got access to their digital commons. And from there we had alfresco, and we are reaching out in a way using the librarians as being intermediaries. So I'm trying to sell you an idea. I believe that the librarians should do it, and at my institution, I'm bypassing the library, giving it directly to the students to run with it. So I can tell you that, yes, I'm doing the work, but the library is not involved. So my pleasure. So let me show you the product that I think is superior to Omeka, and it's alfresco. And you can find the same information as omeka.net. You can go and Google alfresco and see what's out there. So the main library at Columbia University, they purchased alfresco. As you see in the URL, there is alfresco.cul Columbia. So what you see is from us. And I'm just in love with this product because you will see you can do so much. So in addition to being this digital shelf collection, as Omeka is, here you can actually assign tasks. You can keep track of everybody's work. You can, you actually know if someone on your editorial board opened one of the drafts of the articles and is working on it, because that draft is going to be locked with that person's name on it. So it has a calendar, you can assign deadlines. It's just everything in one place. It's an amazing product. And if I cannot excite you about it, that means I'm doing a bad job. So I'm going to my size, and I'm going to go to my imaginary draft library journal. As you see, it's private. And you will see everything that is available from this site. There is a wiki, there is a blog, there is a library, there is a calendar, links that I didn't have with the other product, discussions, data list, and members. So if I want to get in touch with everybody who works on this product, I can do it instantaneously, and they can do it with me. How does it work? So you are going to invite, you go to invite, right there on the logout, you are going to invite your editorial board, and they are going to create their own passwords. So again, it's password protected. And if you want something to be even private among certain people from the editorial board, like the editor-in-chief and his adjunct, you can even make those discussions private between two people or among a more limited subgroup of the invitees. So on the wiki, you're going to create your new page, and for example, that grid you mentioned, you can put it in the wiki as a document. So it's there forever. You have your wiki as a template, and you access it, and so forth. In the blog, for example, I said that the library has forgotten to pay for a subscription for some imaginary source. And I said, what shall we do as students? Shall we go and ask for it to the library, or shall we go and complain that maybe they should pay for that subscription? So you can have a blog, you can get the ideas, okay, maybe we should purchase this from Amazon.com or whatever. I find that very useful. The document library, this is where you can create your own in the library. you can have, as you see, volume 1 from 2010 of this imaginary tract, library journal, and you work on it. And volume 1 has issue 1, and you will see that there is a submission, my own submission to my own imaginary journal. Then I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to see it, and as you see, immediately pops up with download, view browser, or edit metadata, and so forth. And it's very neat. It's very neat, and you see the document actions. You are going to have a history, copy to or move to. You are going to see who has actually worked on this article, which is very nice, because this is what the students want to see. The editor-in-chief or editor of this article wants to see who worked on it. The people I gave tasks to, did they do something with this article or not? So I found that very useful, and once you are in it, if someone else, once you open the document, you are working on it, if someone else wants to do the same thing, there is a little lock with your name. So the second person who wants to open that document knows that that's not possible, so it has to send you an email or somehow contact you. Yes.
Can you also set this up so that maybe only, say, 2 or 3 people have?
Yes. Yes.
But the read-only access would be available simultaneously?
You can, to the same document, I don't think that you can have it simultaneously the same version. You can save it as. So you can save it into your own computer, personal computer, and you can work on it. But it will be a different draft, a different version. Yes, please.
All right, so right here, this is an article that's been submitted.
Exactly, and accepted for publication.
Okay. So let's say they're going through this document.
Yes.
And they're spading.
Yes.
Is there a place in here that they can just upload and dump the copies of the footnotes?
Yes. Yes.
Right in there, and then
Yes.
they link together or something?
Yes, exactly. This is what you can do. You absolutely. So you can, but what you have to do, I understand what you're saying, and your question is very nice. They don't have it. For example, you find this article, and this is an article by, how can we make it bigger here? So we find that there is something by Librarian from Core Legal Reference Services Portal. What you can do right now is to keep that open, and you can go to the links, and you can access Pegasus, which is my catalog at Columbia. And in Pegasus, you can go and type what? So it was so you can go and okay, you have to go and identify who you are, and you can save it to the desktop and then upload it. But when you upload it, you should have in that folder for volume 1, footnotes, article, and the author. And what you can do when you search through the here, when you can search the database, you can find the footnotes according to whatever tags you're going to add. So if you're going to say footnote 1, article by Bob Baring, legal services quarterly, the volume, the pages, a short description. What you said, I think what you wanted, and that was wonderful. If you would have liked to have something internally linked to this.
Do we have?
Yeah, that's wonderful. That will be the next step. No, so right now you have to get out of this and create a different subfolder, like this one, volume 1, issue 1, volume 1, article that you work on, whatever title you want to give that folder, and upload every single footnote. So at that level, we are going back to to visualize a digital shelf collection. So the only way that this pre-publishing repository works right now is having everything somewhere on this digital shelf collection that you can access and search. But in addition to that, Omeka and Alfresco, both of them offer it. In addition to that, here you can give yourself tasks. Yes?
Excuse me. This is a paid service, right?
Yes.
A commercial service. How much does it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, yes. But I suspect that if you go to, it says a small cost is involved.
Right,
If you go
right.
to their
Yeah, I was just
webpage,
looking.
to their official page. I know.
Yeah, and they have a university page, so I was just trying to get a sense of whether it's very expensive or.
I doubt that's very expensive because their competitor, Omeka and other open source are free to a certain extent, are much limited, but are freely accessible.
Omeka
And,
is free.
Yes.
At
yes.
this, okay.
That's from George Mason. It is free.
Yeah.
I told you it has this problem. You have to submit a request. They will give you your own space, your own account. On your own account, you have a minimum of 3 sites that you can create. It doesn't have this link, as I told you. With the links, I find that very useful because the students can have access to all the catalogs they want. You saw, I tried to show you on Omeka, if you want Factiva or if you want Pacer, everything is in one place. Or all these specialized journals, like the tax journal. Can you imagine if you just put all of those tax sources that they would use all the time? That would be just wonderful. And also it has the discussions. I think in the discussions I have a neat made up discussion there. I think that the students were unhappy that the work wasn't divided fairly among themselves. So everything that you want, these are all imaginary students. So I thought, okay, what would the students talk about? I want less work or whatever, this is not fair, this footnote has 5 sources cited, your footnote has only 1, and so forth. So everything is possible from this place. In addition to that, it has a calendar. And where is the calendar? So in the calendar, collecting all the documents, so I just made one entry here, collecting all the documents mentioned in the footnotes. So in the calendar, you can say, Aslan collects this, footnotes by today, Dana collects this, documents by, and so forth. So I find this tool so powerful. So everything is there. And I don't know, our students, I suspect your students, they all have some device that they use to access the internet. So this would be so useful for them in terms of helping them manage their time, and instead of coming to the desk, the reference desk, being tired and frustrated and unhappy that we are somewhere in the 1950s in our library. You say, I want this because I don't understand how to get through whatever, navigate this digital world, rather than I can't, I don't know, there is no paper in my Xerox machine. I think there is a different type of discourse that we want to engage with our students. And I think this will help us become more visible, and also they can rely on us as experts in addition to our substantive field of expertise. And this is all we had for you. I hope that will entertain you. Please, please.
Okay. You mentioned something about, I think it was Omeka, that couldn't
have the
Is
links.
something with URLs?
Yes, that's because I hope that I'm doing a correct disclaimer because they gave me, imagine LexisNexis Academic. It's a limited version of Lexis.
Okay, right.
I believe that what they gave me when I, as a mere citizen, I asked for space on their server, they gave me something limited.
So if you were trying to make, let's say that you have a reference to a website.
Yes, you want to create a mirror site. What I would do, I would just use my own internet connection. I would download the document and I would upload that version.
You could do that.
You could do
yourself.
that,
Okay,
absolutely. You could do that. So you transform that live link into a document.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because we just had a whole issue on UAVs, and believe me, there's not much in overviews about those.
Exactly,
Websites.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we are going to make this a presentation. We are going to post it somewhere, and on a share, whatever. And at the end of the presentation, we have we are going to give you our email addresses. So please be excited about this. I think it's wonderful. Please,
Sorry.
please. We are so happy to have questions.
These sites are set up so that students would have to have a password to access them,
Yes.
to look at articles. Now, do they limit also the number of people that
No.
can post to them?
No, you can invite as many people as you
To
want.
post?
Yes.
Okay, so like, you know, you could post something to one of the law review sites even though they're really in charge of that one.
Oh, hold on a second. Whether they cross, they can cross to a different site. If you are invited, if I invite you to a specific site,
Which would be like do you have like a separate site for each law
yes,
review?
you should be able just to
But-
do that
but if-
site I'm inviting you to.
Let's say the student editor was the main person posting to that, but you knew she was going to be gone for a few days, and you got an ILL in, you could also post to that site?
Everybody who is invited.
Okay, so either you would have to invite that student editor, or they would have to invite you, whichever.
So, no, okay, I wasn't clear. So, the way it works, this is something that the I'm trying to make it attractive enough that the students will run with it.
Right.
So the librarian would be somehow overviewing,
Administrator role.
like an administrator, but really invisible.
Mhm.
Because there are institutions like ours that they don't want us to do anything.
Mhm.
At the same time, I'm going to have it done without doing anything. It's a game. So it's so interesting that all these 7 people on the editorial board, first I'm going to invite them, and then they are going to be there. It's going to be their product. They are going to run with it. And if something comes through ILL, and the editor-in-chief is on vacation, they can assign, the way they work right now, they can assign that task, go to the library and pick up the document. They can say, and you upload that document. That division of labor, I think, is already in place. They have someone who goes to the mailbox and picks up the books, someone who goes and puts them on the shelf, and someone who makes copies or whatever. Because when they check out books, for example, they always have one person or some individual's name. They don't check out books, at least at Columbia, on the
The
name of the
article
journal.
editor. The article editor is in charge of typing that.
And they would also be the people that would be responsible for, how, do they still copy like 3 pages before and 5 pages after on a citation or something like that and keep that copy, I mean, for books? So
Yes,
they-
yes, exactly. So they would be, at Columbia we have scanners, we just purchased some scanners, so they could scan that.
Okay.
They could scan it and they could send it as an email to themselves, then upload it to this database rather than have Google Documents. I expect a question, why not Google Documents? Because Google Documents, you cannot have them from one year to the other. You need someone in charge, continuity. It goes with the email account of that person. While this, you disappear. You are invited, you are disinvited. Then editor-in-chief is going, or this year is going to invite the other editor-in-chief, who is going to invite the other students. Or, at a minimum, librarians sending emails to invite someone to join a site. I don't think any institution would say no to that minimum overview, just sending a few emails. And I suspect that institutions may warm up, libraries may warm up to this project because every single librarian, I think, does some type of training with the incoming editorial boards. At least the main journals get trained in what the rules of the library are, at a minimum, the hours of functioning, how they process interlocutor requests. So if we have those instructions as a tutorial, as a video tutorial on that site, can you imagine? No library director can say, no, I don't want you to do this, because all we'll have to do, I'm just going out for a second. So you can have it with these links, or you can have it in a document library. The beauty of it is that it supports video. It supports everything, not only text documents. So you can have a tutorial 1 year. You record someone's presentation to the Law Library Journal, and you post it there. So there are many advantages for us as librarians who want to be proactive. There are even advantages for institutions that are less proactive. And I think there is a vast array of advantages for the students who have to do this tedious work. Or bluebooking. You can have the first few pages of, instead of having those poor students carry the bluebook with them, that little Bible, they can just scan a few pages. And you have them there in the document library, and when they don't know how to cite something, they go and check it. It's already there with them. Yes, please.
I can see a lot of really valuable uses for this, in addition to the journals that we're a small library now.
Where?
Faulkner University in Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh, yes.
But we have just gotten permission from the Alabama Bar to make a depository of the bar exams.
Wow, that's excellent.
And we had to limit what the access was. So right now, what we had was twin. So only our current students who just recent graduates can look at it. But if we have something like this,
exactly,
then we can give it to it can be part of being the Jones and the Faulkner alums, and then they can access this.
Exactly, because they could have, it would be part of the perks of being an alum.
Yeah.
You will always have access to this repository. Yes, there are many advantages. That's brilliant, yes. Absolutely. I think people are getting ready for the next presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, let's put the emails again. Yes, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Yes.
Do you also use this when you're doing research for faculty members just to keep track of what things?
We can use for that for faculty members. Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm realizing this, that I've been in
Exactly.
with this on my own computer.
Yes.
Every time they get something in ILL, I scan it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can have folders for each faculty member. Absolutely, absolutely. No, I told you I'm sitting in 90 degrees.
Okay. Yeah, well, 60.
Okay.
But they demonstrate some. No.
I've never heard of that.
Thanks so much.
Oh, please. My our pleasure. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
No, please, please.
There's a break now. I didn't know.
That's nice. Yes, it does work. Yes. That's the beauty of this, because the service, yes, is web-based. Yes, I was thinking. And it's also, yes, it is. Online is hosted by the George Mason, and that's why it's limited. And the other one is hosted by the Academic Commons at Columbia and the main university. So yeah, I those are the how it's hosted. Yes, by us. So in a way, it's the same thing. The only difference is that it's web-based. And you can have all these videos if you want tutorials or yes. Right now, we are under the process of interesting students, and I received a very positive response. And to the extent that it doesn't provide the work, you realize that, and the level of technology is so advanced that people don't use any expertise. I think this fall is going to take off with the journals. No, thank you. Please, absolutely, please, and let me know. Excellent. Yes. Who cares? If it helps, we will see. Exactly. Bye-bye. Have a very nice day and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Supporting them. think on what the workflow, not on, hey, here's what institutions which is one of the things that took me a while to realize that they were actually.
Yeah, that's
Interesting. That's the first thing. That's the well, yeah, that's kind of, that's what I thought when I was, you know, the whole library criticism basically was kind of shit, right? That's just
yeah. There's another two.
The first presentation was introduction.
Yeah, it's.
Well, yeah.
It's just
And then I guess from there,
everything was on bricks and it's.
there I guess we'll like